We are live on Facebook, so Dominic, anytime you're ready.
Fantastic. Let me pull up my screen here.
Awesome.
All right. Basic. Are we seeing the full screen yet?
No, we're seeing, now we got it.
Okay, excellent. Good morning, everybody. Happy 1st of July. I'd like to thank everybody for coming on this, was typically a holiday week, but as we now know, we are on permanent staycation. This is 1 Million Cups RTP chapter. I'm very excited today because we know our presenter very well, and I'm excited to hear what his new offering is. So let's go ahead and get started. What is 1 Million Cups? Well, 1 Million Cups is a free national program designed to educate, engage, and connect entrepreneurs. We are part of the Kauffman Foundation. We are the local entrepreneurial outreach and support organization. Kauffman Foundation is a $4 billion endowment for the support of economic development through entrepreneurship. There are over 160 1 Million Cups communities across the country. We are a supportive, neutral space, industry agnostic, and we are not a pitch environment. And what that means is that our presenters are not selling to our community. They are asking for our help in improving their business or helping them get off of the ground. Typically, our presenters are early stage companies within the first 5 years, or they are creating a significant new offering or pivot. The format to our meetings here, we have 1 to 2 startups that would give a 6-minute presentation followed by about 20 minutes of question and answer from the audience. In the virtual environment, we've limited that to 1 presenter so that we can have a little bit more time with the Q&A period. And really what we're trying to do is find out what we as a community can do to help you, the presenter. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can help us here at 1 Million Cups, ways that you can get involved with the common organizer. And we do have 2 new organizers this week. I'm happy to announce. We'll talk about those in a moment. You can apply to present. It's very simple. If you have a business that you think would benefit from coming and presenting at 1 Million Cups RTP, you just go to www.1millioncupsrt.com/RTP. You can also refer a presenter. If you know somebody who would benefit from having a presentation in this format and the feedback from our community, please let them know that we're here. Invite them to come to a meeting, see what it's all about, and tell them they should present. And then last but not least, of course, attend and provide feedback to our presenters. I do want to thank our community organizers. I'll list them off all real quick. We've got Krista Johnson-Sotomayor, Tony Holden, and Trish Holden. There are ambassadors and past lead organizers. Tracy Ames, who is our presenter intake coordinator. William Clote, who does our in-person audiovisual. One of our new organizers this week is Rosa Linda Cruz, and she is going to be responsible for entrepreneurial community outreach and recruiting new presenters. We've got our coaches, David Bates, George Stewart, and Terry Conlon, who are responsible for working with our presenters and making sure that the presentations are suitable for the format, as well as helping that company put their best face forward. And then we've got one of our new organizers, Dan Hepworth, who also happens to be presenting his new venture today. Dan is going to be responsible for a back-end finalization of presentations, making sure that the videos get up on YouTube and on our website. And then Jim Roberts, resident curmudgeon in Wilmington, and then of course myself. Want to thank our community sponsors as well. We've got Muddy Dog Roasting Company, who provides coffee during our live meetings, Imperative Product Operations, GTI, NC Idea, and American Underground, who provide our live meeting space. Got Wise Insights, David Bates' company, Uplift Now, which is the Holden's 501c3. You should check that out. We've got Soto IP and my company, New York Life. So without further ado, today's presenter, our own Mr. Dan Hepworth, is going to be presenting his new concept called Mystery Meals. So Dan, go ahead and take it away. I'm going to stop sharing. You go ahead and start.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. I think I need screen share access.
George, can you take care of that, please?
Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Can everybody see my screen and hear me? Awesome.
There we go.
Yeah, let's jump in. Hey, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good start to their July. I'm Dan Hepworth. Today, I'll be talking about Mystery Meals, which is a new thing I'm exploring, basically to help people explore new food from new restaurants in a fun way with the click of a button. The goals for this presentation are really threefold. I want to get feedback overall on the narrative, the business model. Most importantly, I want to connect with people who love exploring different restaurants and people who, either run restaurants or have worked in restaurants to get their input. And also I want to find co-founders to help me really bring this into fruition. So there's my contact info. I'll also revisit that slide at the end. So a little bit about what we're trying to solve. Basically, the key problem is that, eating food is actually a very difficult process in the sense that there's a lot of indecision and there's a lot of repetition. In fact, 132 hours are spent annually by couples deciding what to eat in America. And the sort of counterintuitive thing is that not many people are picky eaters. 2 out of 3 people identify themselves as not picky. So it's more about deciding where to eat and coming to a consensus than saying this restaurant doesn't fit my preferences. And if we look specifically at online ordering, a lot of people really go into it with a lot of uncertainty. In fact, 46%, nearly half of delivery app users go on the app without an idea of what they want. So they come to their conclusion while on the app. And if we look to the UK overseas, we see that half of workers in the UK consider their lunch dull, and 7 out of 10 workers eat the same lunch every single day. So there appears to be a big monotony and lack of decision-making when it comes to deciding what to eat that we're trying to solve. When it comes to restaurants, it's a very difficult industry to really get a foot in, given that the margins are just so slim. The average profit margin being between 3 and 5%. Current delivery apps kind of kill them with fees. Uber Eats, for example, it takes 40%. In fact, I believe recently there were actually certain cities releasing regulations capping the commissions that these delivery apps can facilitate. And a decent amount of their budget is spent on marketing, between 7 and 10% of sales. And despite all this, it's just still a very tough industry where 4 out of 5 restaurants shut down within 5 years. And I think a lot of that is due to lack of customer acquisition strategies. So I think that's where Mystery Meals comes in. Basically, we're a gamified delivery pickup app where customers can choose to be surprised with a new meal recommended by machine learning. How it'll work, I think there's really 4 main steps. Basically, at the beginning, a user would input their food preferences to order, so what they like, what they don't like, what restaurants they frequent. And I think we would also want to look to different people's risk tolerance. Some people are completely up to serendipity, give me anything. Some people have very specific preferences, like give me a burger, but there's 25 burger places, give me a new burger. Some people, they like a very specific restaurant, but they want to get a new dish on that menu. So we want to cater to all those different risk tolerances. And then once your inputs are in the app, the algorithm will pretty much order the perfect mystery meal based off those constraints listed, the budget that you put, and your location. And then upon that, the order is custom made for either pickup or delivery. And then after enjoying your mystery meal, you will then review the mystery meal to then optimize the algorithm, basically where, you tell us your feedback, like, hey, this cheesecake was really bad. So chances are we're not going to recommend you another cheesecake or another food from that restaurant. So we want to make sure that with every single mystery meal, we can give you better and better recommendations. So far, I've had a decent amount of traction. So I've been prototyping this in a very low-tech manner with a wait list and some very low-tech orders with people filling out Google Forms and me outsourcing those orders to like Grubhub and Uber Eats. And within less than 2 weeks, I've had a wait list of 108 people. I've had 14 orders from beta users that were paid with an average order price of $18. Pretty much my, rough business model is basically just charging a $2 fee on top of the meal. So if it's a $14 meal, I'll put a $2 fee on top. Our mission in the long run is really to make food fun. So a couple of ideas we're toying around with is really capitalizing on that social element, having mystery meals with friends, because I think eating is a very social event. Likewise, we run a really fun user interface. So, like the roulette graphic I have there, you can spin a wheel or press a mystery box, something to really make the experience from end to end incredibly exciting and fun. And lastly, hopefully when the pandemic dies down soon, we want to get into in-person events. One customer I was speaking with suggested a really good idea of like some sort of scavenger hunt where basically, you'd go from restaurant to restaurant and get like these clues, and you'd see like a mystery meal sticker on the restaurant. So I think there's a lot of different event-driven opportunities you can also facilitate on this app. And obviously the food delivery market is a huge industry. We're becoming a more on-demand society. So if we look globally, it's a market size of $96 billion. Specifically honing in on the US, it's a $27 billion market. And then if we're focusing specifically on restaurant to consumer, which would be our initial focus, that's $16 billion. And these are all growing at very fast rates. More from a bottoms up perspective, I think the target market would be 10.5 million Americans. Basically the rationale for that was looking at Americans in urban areas due to the high restaurant density who order delivery or takeout at least weekly. They're uncertain eaters, so that 46% that I was talking about earlier, and they earn over 75K, so they can afford this on a regular basis. And I think that they would spend on average $432 a year, so assuming biweekly usage with the average meal price, and that makes it a $4.6 billion revenue opportunity. And if we just capture 0.5% of the market, that's $23 million in market share. And assuming a 25% margin, that's about $5.8 million in gross profit. So a little bit about myself. I'm from Massapequa Park on Long Island, so not from RTP, but my ties to it comes from Duke. So there's a photo of me with one of our more famous classmates, Zion Williamson. I'm very entrepreneurial, so I run a company called the Massapequa Tutor, which is a peer tutoring company, and I recently co-founded a company called Student Side, and when I'm not busy on those, I love hiking and fishing. So that's all I have for now. Thank you so much, and happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. It is an interesting idea, and I look forward to hearing what questions folks have for you. So the slide that George just put up describes how we're doing the question and answer segment in this virtual world. So you're going to send George a message letting him know that you have a question. He's going to put you in queue and call on you as it's your turn. When he does call on you, please, if you can, turn your camera on, unmute yourself, and ask your question. If you have a brief follow-up, that's fine. But we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask their questions. So if you can, try and keep that to a minimum. And if you have other questions, get back in the queue and we'll get back to you. All right. So we're good to go here, George. Do you have any questions queued up yet?
I sure do. Dwight was first off the blocks.
Hey, Dan. Good morning. It's Dwight. How are you doing? Good, great presentation. Quick question. I mean, I'm also doing some stuff in AI, machine learning. One of the challenges is the big database to put into the algorithm. Where do you intend to get that database for this? I mean, have you been polling people? Are you sending out surveys? I mean, I wrestle to see how you would find, I mean, I imagine the data is out there somewhere, but what's the intention of getting that kind of data to feed into your model?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I will preface that I'm probably not the best at answering this, given I'm not super technical. Despite being a comp sci major, I've only taken 3 computer science classes so far. But in terms of the data, I think there's a couple of potential sources, one of which being like APIs from delivery apps like Uber Eats and Grubhub. I don't know to what extent that data is public, but that's definitely one potential. I think there's also a wealth of data on Yelp, restaurant reviews, keywords for different food items, things like that. I think those would really be 2 very good starting points. And then also user generated data. So, having people at the beginning, like do some sort of thing to calibrate the algorithm, whether it's like, a Q&A, like, oh, what food do you like? What food do you not like? Or if it's more of a fun, like kind of swiping feature where it's like you swipe right on different meals and swipe left on different meals. So those are a couple of things I'm initially thinking to get that data.
Yeah, maybe you need to find some kind of partner out there and see if you know that kind of data if they'll share that kind of data. I mean, scraping Yelp could be very, very time consuming, I would imagine.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a key part of the strategy. We would need to have some data to make the recommendations useful.
Right. Thanks.
All right, next up is Elizabeth with a question.
Good morning. This is a really neat idea. And I was curious, what's the target geographic market? How widely available will it be? And what's your target demographic? And what portion of the market that you were demonstrating do those capture?
Yeah, so my initial target market is based off a couple of constraints. So the first being starting off, in America with urban areas, given that urban areas have a high density of restaurants. So there's a wide enough range of selections to make this fruitful. Then you would also want to hone in on people who already use delivery and takeout apps, given that they're the ones that would be able to utilize this technology. I forgot this stat. I think it was like 70% of people use some delivery app on a weekly basis. I could be mistaken. And then further, in that that pool of people who use delivery apps in urban areas, people who are uncertain eaters, so tapping into that 46% who don't make an order until they're on the app. And then also just to make sure that this is affordable. I'm not really sure, how online delivery and takeout, spans across incomes, but just to play a conservative estimate, I said anyone earning over 75K. So that's kind of my initial target market. I think, honing in further, it could be college students potentially, given that young people typically, have enjoyed this a lot. At least a lot of our pilot users have been college students, but that could be just the biases within my network. I've also received a lot of interest from just young urban professionals, like people who are like a couple years out of college doing like consulting or working on a startup. So that's sort of my hunch for what the target market would be.
Hey, I don't have any more in the queue, so I'm going to throw in a question, Dan. So you mentioned one of your earlier slides that Uber Eats will take up to 40%, and on a different slide, you suggested taking another 15 as your cut from the restaurant. That's 55% on as a total. Have you talked to any restaurant owners about how willing they would be to share another 15% of their total revenue?
Not yet. That's definitely something I want to do in the near future. Just to clarify, my fees wouldn't be on top of theirs. So right now in the short term, while I'm prototyping this, there kind of is that duplicity of fees. But I would want to build my own network of delivery drivers to have the operational side of things and have really just one set of fees. And I think there's ways that can make it more economical for the restaurants and also add more value by promoting dishes. So I would want to try and only charge them 15%, or maybe like, it's a sliding scale where it's like 5% or 10% for takeout and 15 or 20 for delivery. So I would want to, pretty much slash those fees in half.
Okay, thanks. Andrew has a question about managing the customer delivery process.
Hey, Dan, Andrew Fisher here. Actually, customer discovery is really what I'm interested in here. So you've got some beta users already, and I'm curious about how you're managing that process. So how are you identifying those users? Do you have a sort of standardized process for coming up with the people that you're asking to test this out for you? And what tools are you using to get that critical task done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's been very organic so far. So I've really just posted this on my LinkedIn, my social media, sent it to a couple of friends who I thought would be interested, leveraging referrals. In terms of the back end of how it works, I have a landing page, which is pretty much the website. And then on there's a button, join the waitlist, and that links to a MailChimp intake form. And then on the MailChimp intake form, upon filling that out, you get auto reply kind of welcoming you to the waitlist. There's the order now button where you can order through a Google form, and then the Google form pretty much goes to my email, and then I set it up so I get push notifications from my email, so I can jump on an order pretty much anytime within a few minutes. So very, very low tech, but it seems to get the job done just to prove the concept out.
Yeah. What happens if someone orders at 10 at night, or when you're in the middle of dinner? Or do you able to jump on those any time of day?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of always on my phone, so it's not a huge problem. Most orders have been kind of in like a reasonable time frame. Like I haven't received any like 3 a.m. orders. Sometimes orders will be in advance, like the night before, which is definitely comforting. I set a time constraint where you have to order within an hour of when you want the meal to deliver, to give me some buffer time to put in the adequate time to look into restaurants and stuff.
Gotcha. Thanks. Great presentation.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Hey, just one comment. It's really good to see some people who aren't usually asking questions asking. That said, we have a regular who always has a probing and interesting question. Dave's got something for you.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm glad to see folks hopping in. Dan, it's great to just see how your brain works and how you're coming up with these new and innovative ideas. So thanks for your contribution to the community here in that way. I was also curious about what George had asked about, and your response was interesting. The thing that might get a little tricky is your margin calculation to build out an alternate Uber Eats kind of infrastructure, and that kind of leads me to I had the question about the numbers and the margins and how you're charging who. Customer acquisition is tough for restaurants right now. I think that was one of the things that you had mentioned in the narrative. You asked for feedback on the narrative, also foodies and possible other co-founders. That what is the biggest challenge in customer acquisition for restaurants and for Uber Eats? And one of the questions that I'm interested in is how you solve that problem for them, so that you don't have to build all the infrastructure that they already have, but you actually make money by solving the problem for them, by bringing those customers to them. And that, and to George's point, not raising the total cost of the order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good question. I don't know if I have the best answer, but my sort of initial thoughts are that, you know, for this to really be a sustainable business, you know, it would need to have its own delivery network. Otherwise, you know, you're really just taking a fraction of the pie that Uber Eats and Grubhub have, which is honestly a very small pie. You know, a lot of them are really struggling to be cash flow positive. So I don't know how sustainable that is in the long term. Like in the short term, like I'm sure I can find some like revenue sharing agreement with Uber Eats or whatnot. I think they acquire customers just by really throwing money at the problem. Like they give you like free delivery for the first order. They have a lot of promos with restaurants. I think they're also trying to do like some like Uber Eats Pass now, where you can get multiple orders. Restaurants, I know, also do a lot of things that get very that really cut into their margins. So I think the biggest that comes to mind is Groupon, where you know you get this like discounted order or this discounted menu, but Groupon takes like 75%. It's actually kind of cruel, and you're kind of losing money on the dish. So I think that I can help restaurants acquire customers by having a fun user experience and doing it at a fraction of the cost as a result, and making sure that they can still hopefully make money off the meal. So I'm not really sure to what extent I would partner with a delivery app like full on, because I would kind of be butting heads with them in the long run. So it really comes down to like the market opportunity, because like Uber Eats and Grubhub charge like usually less than $5 to $6 fees. So if I get like 20% of that, I don't know if it's like sustainable.
This is really unusual. We are out of questions in the queue. Does anybody have anything else they would like to ask Dan or suggest to him? All right, go ahead.
Well, understanding that you're planning on building out your own delivery service and system, that is going to be a tremendous expenditure, both in technology and the creation of a labor force in multiple markets as you start to grow. So what is like what kind of cash flow are you going to need up front? What kind of investment are you looking for to make that part a reality? Or is that even a market that's is responsible to try to get into with this app, with this service?
Good question. In terms of the need for a delivery, I think that it kind of goes back to just like the trends in like society where people want more on-demand stuff. And it really adds to the value of the service where, you know, if you're going to the restaurant, you get this address, or at least how I do it with the pilots is I send people an address, and when they type it in Google Maps, the restaurant name shows up. So it's kind of a buzzkill. So it kind of is essential to the user experience to have that serendipity where it's like, oh, where's this meal coming from? I'm getting this random food delivered to me. And it's definitely going to be a very labor intensive and very operationally difficult process to optimize. I think really the best way to do it would be to test it out. I know that there's a lot of local delivery networks, like I think one's called the Durham Courier Company or something like that, where it's local delivery drivers. So, you know, if I was to start with like a regional launch to test the model in one city, that can be kind of a way to see if a delivery network is sustainable and, you know, able to grow. But I'm not really sure. I don't have the best answer.
Well, Elizabeth has a follow-up question.
Hi, I do have another question. So my background is modeling and accounting and numbers and business budgeting. Have you sat down and mapped out the numbers behind all of these models so that you can look at what the ceiling would be for costs with some of these partnerships? Or if it's even feasible based on potential cash flow to build your own delivery army, so to speak. Have you looked at those numbers to see what you would have to have in order to make this feasible?
Not yet, but that's something I definitely want to look into. For me, the focus right now has been seeing if this concept has legs and if people are willing to pay to get random food either delivered to their home or for pickup. But I think the next logical step would be to see if it's sustainable to do a delivery model, and if so, how, whether it's in-house or outsourcing or something like that. So it's definitely something that's in my agenda in the near term.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Brett Chambers has one concerning intellectual property.
Dan, it's good to see you. Also, it's an interesting model. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. If it's something I'd use. And the big question I have is there any part of the process, or is there anything that you have created that makes it so unique that you could patent it, either patent the process, or you created some technology that makes it work, or there's something that you could trademark so you could license it?
Yeah, I think the thing that would have like potential for, you know, becoming proprietary would be the algorithm that makes the recommendations, because that's kind of that would be sort of the bread and butter behind you know, why people would use the app, because it gives them really good food recs with the click of a button. So that would probably be the main like proprietary, you know, trade secret, more or less.
I think that was a good. Hey, Kenny's got a question concerning reviews.
Yes, I was curious, would those reviews be shared with the restaurants that are participating, or would that just be for the users to help refine like where you're gonna do the next mystery meal from, I guess?
I think there's no harm in sharing the reviews with the restaurant. I think it's good for their service as well. And you know, it'd be kind of essential to kind of make sure that the you know, network of restaurants is of quality. Like, you know, if this one restaurant's getting like, you know, 1 stars consistently, then there's no reason to keep it on the platform unless they're giving us a lot of money. So I definitely want to share the reviews with the restaurant. It's part of their value, really. They're getting their food promoted. And I think it's also a good way to get feedback where, hey, you know, I'm an Italian restaurant. I have this new pasta dish. I want to rapidly get that to market and see what people think.
Oh, that's a good idea for test. I hadn't thought about that.
Dave wants to delve a little more deeply into the delivery aspect.
Well, I was just following up on what Elizabeth had said. I mean, part of the reason that Uber Eats works is because they've invested gobs and gobs of money building a bunch of drivers, and they have this capacity, right? And so Uber Eats kind of came out of, wow, we got all these Uber drivers and they're just sitting there waiting for a fare, right? So how do we keep them busy? Oh, I know, let's deliver some food. So, and they do, and there's, you know, that's where DoorDash kind of got their model from and everything. I think what Elizabeth had followed up with after I posted some of my comments there in the chat, her comment about modeling it seems really important, because you've mentioned, yes, like without the people being willing to try mystery meals, like there's no business there. But then really, really quickly after that, the most fundamental business decision, if you believe that it doesn't work without your own delivery drivers, is really modeling that out and understanding what that does, because it will fundamentally change the cost structure to the customer in the end. So just an encouragement to really highly prioritize that one, if it's a fundamental assumption to the success of the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would really require more testing. What's kind of interesting is that there's a pretty good split between pickup and delivery orders. So I'm not sure even to what extent delivery would be like essential. But now that I think of it, you know, one potential, you know, long-term idea could be like, say, partnering with Lyft, which has these drivers, but I don't think they have acquired any delivery platforms. So that could be a bit more advantageous, given they haven't really built out that part of their business, or have some for some reason consciously not delved into that market. Another thing worth looking into is really the future of travel and the future of food, where, you know, hopefully, you know, in a very near term horizon, there could be things like drones and self-driving cars, which could bring down the cost of delivery, not just for Mystery Meals, but for any you know, company, significantly. So leaning into that to some extent, and also maybe leveraging into the pickup component, because I think restaurants are really a very changing industry, where there's things like ghost kitchens, which are invested in with billions of dollars. And what if there's, you know, the possibility of, say, going to like this random like ghost kitchen, and there's like 4 random restaurants in there that, you know, you would walk up and they'd randomly give you something. So there's definitely a lot of things moving in both industries that are worth noting.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to get at in my earlier comment about who has a problem that you can help them solve, rather than having to build something completely from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your quick follow-up, Dave?
It was.
That was really quick. All right, so next up is Dominic. He's got a follow-up as well.
Yeah, so going back to the intellectual property question, and then, you know, looking at the logistical barriers of getting into the food delivery business, especially as widespread as it would have to be, you know, have you thought about the possibility of creating the technology, the algorithm that does do the selection of the mystery meal, and perhaps just licensing that out to the currently existing food delivery structure that's in place? So license it to Grubhub, license it to Uber Eats, and just take, you know, just a sliver off of, you know, what they're already charging, and that way you don't have all the overhead of having, you know, this massive workforce or any of the liability. All you're doing is just adding a piece of technology that adds to their current service and getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't thought of that, but that's a really good idea. You know, I guess an analogy that kind of came to mind is like the shuffle button. You know, the shuffle button for music. This would be the shuffle button for food, and, you know, selling that shuffle button at, you know, a certain price per order can definitely be fruitful. I'm just not sure what the market opportunity as a whole would be. So I would need to do some research as to, you know, what the upside would look like, and what potential other markets this algorithm could, you know, be used for. Like, you know, could there be, I don't know, say, you know, some way to license this in the future for travel, where it's like, oh, I press a random button and put a price in, and I get a random vacation booked for me. I don't know. I would have to think about the long-term implications, but I really like that concept.
Well, just to, you know, follow up, you know, that the idea of, you know, licensing the technology and in getting it out there, you know, it's simply a a cost for them. But when you're looking at, what is the revenue generation, and you were showing us the revenue models before, that was based on, building off the delivery. But you've got to look at, all right, the revenue numbers are one thing, but what is the profitability, right? And if you're looking at getting into a market that's barely profitable as it is with a currently existing driver force, as David said, then you might be jumping into a loser, right? But if you're jumping in with something that's going to have very low overhead, all it is the technology development. And once it's developed, you just get paid. That may be where you need to go because that is profitable.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. There's definitely a lot of flaws with the online delivery business model, just given, how competitive the market is. I think I was reading in the news that Uber's trying to put a bid in for Postmates to consolidate market share. So I would definitely want to do something different in terms of how the money is made, because whatever's currently working doesn't seem to be sustainable.
Yeah, good answer. Hey, Sean's got a question.
Hey, great. Thanks, George. Dan, my question comes with your determination of price or value of the service. What were some of the factors that got you to a price point as far as cost or price of the service?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right now, the price point I use is very arbitrary. It's just a $2 fee on top of the order to kind of test that people are willing to pay more than their order for this. I think the best way to really capture value would be some sort of percentage to, make it more economical for smaller orders, as well as capture more value for larger orders. To be honest, the percentages I put there, the 10% on the consumer and the 15% on the restaurant, are really just guesswork. So we need to do some more research to see what is the optimal number for that.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. I have a follow-up if no one else asks it, just about your marketing strategy in general. And then thank you, George.
Yeah, about the marketing strategy. Not my forte. I think it really depends on what market we focus on, whether it's college kids or young urban professionals or a certain region. I think those are all factors. I think, a couple of things that have, proven to be somewhat advantageous are having some sort of initial discount to get someone on the platform, like, free delivery or discounted first order, some way to really leverage network effects. Like I mentioned before, I think the social component.
Okay, good question, Sean. Thank you. A new voice, or at least an unusual voice on the question, is Chris.
Thanks.
Hey, hang on a second. I'm sorry, Chris, to interrupt you, but it looks like Dan is frozen, so I'm not sure he's actually going to hear the question. At least he's frozen for me.
He is also frozen for me.
He's frozen for me too.
All right,
yeah.
So let's just hang for a second there on that question. Sorry, Chris.
No worries at all. Sorry for showing up a little bit late. This is a great topic.
Chris, while we're waiting for, there's Dan.
Yeah, I joined on mobile. For some reason, my computer randomly disconnected. I'm glad I made it this far, but yeah, did I get cut off at some point?
Yeah, so Chris had a question.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going, Dan? So I guess my question is what is your thoughts for integration with the actual restaurant? So, a lot of third-party platforms are using personal iPads in-store, Postmates, things like that. However, now they're finding ways to integrate a system called Hepworth. What are your thoughts on integration within the actual restaurant itself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really know what the technology stack looks like inside of restaurants, so I need to learn a bit more. Perhaps there needs to be some integration with the point of sale software, or even it could be completely remote, where it's like the restaurant owner, has like their MysteryMeals account, and pretty much based off whatever the order volume has been, the commission goes directly into their bank account. I think in terms of like, pricing and stuff, it really depends on how much value we're adding. So obviously pickup would be a lower commission than delivery, if delivery seems to be something to go towards. And then I think there's even other ways to really promote restaurants. Like, there could be like a featured meal of the region. Like, in Durham, we can promote this one pizza place and this one pizza, like pizza pie from that pizza place, and they can give us some sort of extra commission for that. So I think there's kind of like a sliding scale as to how it would be priced. But that's my sort of initial thoughts for integration.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I'm sure I have 1,000 other questions, but maybe another time.
So Chris, don't go away, because Dan's going to stick around after 10 o'clock for some informal, just unmoderated chit chat. So if you have a few minutes after 10 o'clock and you'd like to stick around, I'm sure you can follow up with all your other questions. I would like to, Dan, go back to your statement. You were looking for a co-founder, and one of our missions here at A Million Cups is to help you as a community. What are you looking for in a co-founder? Who would your ideal co-founder be, and what would they bring to your business?
I think a lot of complementary skill sets, in particular, someone with a lot of technical proficiency to lead the actual product development and the vision for the product. Perhaps someone who has experience in the food services industry. Someone with a skill for marketing and branding, since I'm not the most creative person by any means. Outside of that, sort of soft skills would be obviously being committed. I would want someone to work on this, pretty much all in and make it $1 billion company. Someone who, is good to work with, someone who has a good attitude and is not like a quote brilliant jerk. Someone who is very radically transparent. They're not just going to say, yes, I think that's a good idea, but think critically. What else? Someone who really takes ownership over problems and, is going to tackle something hands-on rather than try and delegate it or push it off. Those are a couple of traits. I can go on.
No, that's good. But I think for the rest of you on the meeting today, is to think about whether you or somebody might be a good fit to help out Dan. So that said, Dominic has a question.
I do have a question. I'll just follow up on that last statement, Dan. I would suggest, as far as looking for a partner, a co-founder, that you find somebody who has experience in programming and machine learning that can help you with your algorithms, which brings me to my question, which is the cost of the dish itself going to be a factor in the algorithm in determining what the mystery meal is going to end up being? Because what you don't want to have is somebody who's used to paying $8 for a lunch that ends up getting a 10-ounce filet from Sullivan's for $45, right? Like how is that going to be figured in when you're determining what to bring your customer?
I think it's one of the most critical factors. I think the most critical things are risk tolerance. Do you want something completely random or something in a food category or a certain dish? Price, obviously, do you want to spend $50 or $5 or anything in between? Maybe your hunger as well. That kind of goes hand in hand with your price. If you're really hungry, I think you would want to pay $20. But if you're looking for a snack, maybe like $5 or $6. Obviously, location is a big one. And then obviously your preferences. So yeah, price is really critical. So that's something that would definitely be part of the input, whether it's like a floor and a ceiling price or a ceiling price, something like that.
Okay, last call for questions. We've got about 5 minutes if there are any more questions. Otherwise, we will go to community announcements and wrap up 5 minutes early. Hey, Dominic, time for community announcements.
Excellent. Well, community announcements works essentially the same way as Q&A. Just ping George, let him know that you've got something that you would like to say and announce to the community. And keep in mind, we're also broadcasting live on Facebook, so you have the opportunity to talk to those folks over there as well. I always start with something while people are getting into the queue, and tonight is RTP Business Networking, which is an event that I host. We're actually going to be live and in person for the first time since the whole COVID-19 thing happened. It's tonight from 6 to 8 at the Beer Garden in West Cary. please bring your mask. We're going to be social distance networking, and it is, keep in mind, it's also required in the state. So if you're not in the act of eating or drinking, you have to wear your mask. Test ran that last night at another event, so it worked pretty well. I'll go ahead and put the link to that event, the Eventbrite link. We are limiting participation to 25 people. It will be outdoors in an open patio environment. So if we have any other community announcements, George?
Yeah, Brett's got one.
Okay, excellent.
Mine is more of a thank you to the Million Cups community for supporting our lead students last week. I think it was really helpful to the students. We had Dave come and share his insight and wisdom with them. Tracy has been helping us. Ricardo's an alum. They present Friday, so they're getting ready for their final presentations with their judges on Friday. So, and they heard from the national lead director Monday night. So I just want to thank Million Cups for being a part of LEAD.
Thank you,
That's
Brett. Any other announcements, George?
No, that's it.
Hey, it looks like we have a lot of new faces in here that we haven't seen, and I really appreciate you all for coming. If you like what you heard, if you like the format, if you are interested in hearing other presenters or helping entrepreneurs in our community become more successful, we would love for you to come back. We would also challenge you to share what we're doing with other people you know with similar interests. We would love to have more people come out and support our entrepreneurial community here with 1 Million Cups. And if you would like more information about how you can get involved, please get in contact with myself, George, David, Tracy's on here as well, to find out how you can participate, how you can apply to present if you have a company or know somebody else who has a company. We're always looking for new presenters. And if you have an idea that you haven't quite fleshed out and you'd like some coaching and want to give a presentation to figure out how you can take that next step, we'd be glad to have you. So, we're about 10 minutes early, but, thank you all for coming, and have a very safe and enjoyable 4th of July holiday. Enjoy your families, be safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week.